What is the most important thing that replenishes youth? It can be genuine enthusiasm for the future, or it could be a strong friendship, or it could be a relationship. All these were wrong answers for the young man. For him, all these things were illusory. This was not enough. There are many incomprehensible situations between people. In other words, it is very difficult to find a person who could understand you. But for a guy, if you ignore the desire to understand each other, then the so-called love loses its meaning. While the young man was carrying out the teacher's instructions and sorting out the materials, he thought about the letter he had recently received. The letter said that the guy should come to the tennis court after school. The person who liked him wanted to talk to him. The young man did not understand how to cope with this sudden love. The young man believed that receiving confessions was a headache for him. Meanwhile, the author of the letter was already waiting for the guy to talk. The young man immediately recognized Amelie. The girl turned when she noticed her lover. Amelie immediately blushed at the sight of the young man. The guy decided to pretend that he didn't know about the reason for the conversation. So he said that if this was an activity report, then let the girl just bring it to the student council. The girl saw through the young man's plan and became angry with him. Amelie told the guy that if he pretended to be stupid again, she would kill him if he didn't listen to her again. Buddy replied that if he had nothing better to do here, then perhaps it was time to leave. But the lady with pink hair did not give up. She grabbed the guy by the collar. Together they collapsed on the steps of the stairs in a very piquant pose. Amelie confessed her love to the guy, who was perplexed by what was happening. The girl continued her words. He invited Buddy to become her boyfriend. The young man mentally screamed. He could not believe that this was really a confession. He could not avoid it. The guy was faced with a choice whether to accept the confession or not. But the young man didn't want to fall in love yet. But he was also afraid to refuse, because Amelie is the champion of the archery club. Therefore, the young man resigned himself to the fact that today he would definitely die. The girl grabbed the young man's shoulders and began to shake them, asking if Buddy would be her boyfriend. But the young man tried to avoid answering, and mentally he already wanted to run away from here. But then Buddy thought that he is a strong man who has gone through many battles. He is the best when it comes to escaping. The guy turned to the girl with pink hair and put his hands on her shoulders. The young man told Amelie that he was very sorry, but he had, and then the phrase stopped. Buddy finished his sentence. He said that there was already someone he liked, but the same phrase was said at the same time by a girl not far from them. A lady with black hair listened to a declaration of love from another young man. She replied that she was very sorry. The boy replied that it means she already has a loved one and asked for forgiveness for the inconvenience. Amelie irritably asked Buddy if he was going to use the same excuse as the stranger. Mentally the young man was indignant. He was unlucky to run into that girl at the same time. The lady with pink hair reminded of herself. She asked what the guy wanted to tell her. The young man apologized and replied that he was really in love with one person. But Amelie did not give up. She persistently asked the guy to tell him who he loved. The pink-haired girl added that if Buddy didn't tell her, then she would confess to him every day. Go to his house and confess. Go to his class and confess. Go to the student council room to confess. Amelie glared at the young man and continued her interrogation. The guy did not understand why the girl was doing this, and did not know what to do now, so he decides to call false love. But he said that this was the older Nancy, he liked her, and asked the lady with pink hair if that would do. But at that moment the black-haired girl heard these words of the young man. Amelie calmed down. She answered the guy that since it was Nancy, then everything was fine. The lady with pink hair said that she didn't think Nancy knew him, so they couldn't have a relationship. The girl added that, in addition, the eldest is going to leave this school next year, and Amelie is naturally very upset by this news. The lady with pink hair said with a smile that even if the guy doesn't like her now, she will try to gradually like him in the future. Amelie said goodbye to the young man and said that she would come for him tomorrow morning. The young man did not immediately understand her last words, and then became perplexed. A little later, the young man sat and reasoned. As soon as he could think that there had just been a perfect refusal, and why Amelie did not understand what was happening, the guy was almost sure that his youth was also a problem. At that moment, Student Council President Tiffany entered the office. She noticed that the Vice President had not yet gone home. The white-haired girl sat down right on the guy's table and asked what he was doing here at such a time. The young man jumped away from the table in surprise. He said that the president was probably joking, because Buddy voluntarily stayed to help with the affairs of the student council. And mentally the young man thought that doesn't she remember who made him stay and work late today? Tiffany was drinking coffee and decided to praise Buddy. The white-haired woman said that she would consider this a reward for the guy working overtime today and handed the deputy a mug of coffee. But the young man replied that he did not need this, because his mother told him that drinking coffee at night was harmful. Tiffany made a sad face and said that she was kind enough to make coffee for the vice president, which he apparently didn't appreciate. These words touched the young man. He noticed the cunning motives of the white-haired woman. Buddy took a mug of coffee and enthusiastically said that he would definitely remember the kindness of the student council president. The girl replied that from the moment the vice president said something about kindness, she became confident that the guy would reciprocate her feelings. The young man began to suspect that this was another confession, and then he noticed someone's love letter in front of him. Tiffany took Buddy by the shoulders and asked the vice president to tell him what he thought about love letters. The young man thought about it, and the white-haired one knows that Amelie wrote him a love letter, or maybe the love letter on the table was written by her, and she realized that the guy did not notice him and came to remind him of him. The girl reminded the vice president that he had not yet answered her question, and she hugged Buddy, pressing herself tightly against him. The white-haired girl said in the ear of the embarrassed guy what he thought about this love letter. Tiffany continued to press the young man to hurry up with his answer. The guy didn't understand what was happening here, but suddenly they started knocking on the door and calling for the president. But the white-haired girl did not react in any way to the caller. She told Buddy if this meant that the guy wanted her to hug him tighter. Tiffany then called the president Petty. The girl continued to squeeze the guy in her arms, and it became difficult for him to breathe. The white-haired woman told the one behind the door that he could come in. The guy entered and saw the president and vice president in an embrace. The young man stood with a piece of paper outstretched. He apologized and quickly left the office. Buddy shouted to the running guy that it wasn't what he was thinking. The vice president was nervous about being in such an awkward situation, and Tiffany was still smiling. As if nothing had happened, she said that the problem was solved, and she hid the button torn from the guy's shirt behind her back. The girl sat down on a chair and said that if a guy receives 25 love letters, then he will understand her. Since the vice president was the only boy whom the president knows well, she can hold him responsible for all this. The white-haired one added that she almost forgot how the vice president could receive love letters. It was too much for her to ask to understand her feelings. The young man asked the president if she had thought about his personal safety, while the girl sat and drank already cooled coffee. In response, Tiffany said that she would offer the guy her scent. The white-haired girl was looking at something on her phone, but it was too late. The girl looked sharply at the guy. Buddy fearfully asked what she was going to do. Suddenly the president grabs his vice president's hand. Tiffany asks the guy why he is looking at her like that. Is she really a sinner in the opinion of the vice president? The white-haired girl decided to clarify what she meant. With these words, she asked the guy to close his eyes and not peep. Buddy had a bad feeling about this. The young man slightly opened his fingers to follow the girl's actions with one eye. But Tiffany walked up to the vice president and closed his eyes again with a warning that if he dared to peek, it could cause a real bloody storm here. After which the girl tied her hair in a ponytail. The white-haired girl began to take off her school uniform. The young man remained in the dark. Only the sounds revealed Tiffany's actions, which made the guy embarrassed. And so the president unzipped her skirt. The item of clothing fell to the floor, accompanying the space with a corresponding sound. The vice president was muttering to himself about what the damn president was up to, and what that strange noise was all about. The girl approached the young man and asked about the strange noise. Taking off her shoes, Tiffany asked the young man if this was the noise that the vice president was expecting. The guy asked how this is possible. The white-haired girl sharply turned the young man to face her and allowed him to open his eyes. Tiffany stood in front of the vice president in a luxurious open black evening dress. The girl asked what the guy thought about it and whether it suited her. Buddy blushed, but replied that the president looked great, but asked why she was changing clothes in the office. Because someone could see her. But the white-haired woman grinned. She apologized and said that she was in a hurry. She had a dinner party today, so she didn't know what to do. The girl explained that she did not change clothes in the office. This dress can be folded so that it fits into a school uniform. Tiffany added that she simply took off her school uniform and showed what she had done, but the young man asked her not to explain. The white-haired woman continued to stand in a revealing dress in front of the embarrassed guy, Buddy said that he thought the president was in a hurry, and he called the girl slow so that she would leave quickly. But Tiffany remembered something. She tore a button off the guy's shirt while she was hugging him. Then the girl called the vice president, who was excited. The white-haired girl leaned over to the guy and said that the vice president was very careless. As a member of the student council, it was wrong to leave his discipline and button open like that. Tiffany replaced the missing button with a cufflink in the shape of an olive branch, and Buddy himself wondered when the button had come off. The girl explained that this was an additional reward for the vice president for voluntarily agreeing to work overtime. Then she added that she was leaving, so let the young man be smart and finish the overtime work. But the young man himself was still in shock from the events that had happened. Tiffany left happy, because she thought that she finally got him, and in her hand she clutched Buddy's button. The vice president was left alone in the office. He began to discuss what kind of letter this was. It was most likely not a love letter from the president. The guy didn't understand who it was from then, so he decided to open it and see for himself. The letter said that if Buddy had free time after school, then let him go to a nearby cafe. The letter was from Nancy, the queen of their school. The young man thought that if today's horoscope was to be believed, then today another confession awaited him. The vice president, having finished his business, went to the coffee shop, where Nancy was already waiting for him. The young man carefully asked the girl if she was looking for him. A beauty with long black hair said that Amelie came to see her today. The girl added that the main thing now is that Buddy likes her. The guy spat out his coffee in shock, as Nancy said that Amelie then explained to her in detail his shortcomings, and the reasons why she and the young man could not be together. The school queen asked if Buddy was okay. The vice president immediately replied that he was perfectly fine, and tried to explain to the elder that this was not what the girl was thinking. But Nancy immediately voiced the correct guess that it was just a random reason to refuse Amelie. Buddy said that everything was so and thanked her for her understanding. The guy noticed that this was the strength of an intelligent girl with outstanding talents. The young man thought that he had understood everything wrong, because he simply did not understand why someone like her would want to confess to the vice president. The young man apologized to the eldest for using the fact that he liked her as an excuse, and hoped that the girl would forgive him. But the black-haired girl asked Buddy if he would be her boyfriend. The vice president thought it was some kind of joke from the girl. Nancy said she wasn't joking, but explained that the point was to just pretend to be her boyfriend. The young man asked her to clarify what she meant. The girl said that Amelie confessed to him, but she didn't give up even after being rejected, and the guy can't do anything about it, so they can pretend to be a couple. That will be the best way to make other people give up. The young man was glad that Nancy decided to help him. The guy clarified whether it was true that if he rejected someone, this person would not die. The eldest said that her situation was more complicated than Buddy's. The black-haired girl said that this was just a guess, so she asked the guy not to worry about it so much, but just let him think about it. When leaving, the girl said that they would meet here tomorrow. She would wait for the young man's answer. The next day, in the morning, his sister came to the young man's bedside and turned off her brother's alarm clock. The girl was in a cat suit and climbed on top of her brother. The sister approached her brother's face and pulled out her tongue, intending to do something. Buddy woke up with a start, and screamed why his sister was dressed like that, and what she wanted to do again. The girl said she went to bed without a bath last night, and now she stinks. And she also likes the panda's ugly eyes. Buddy apologized for inconveniencing his sister, but the girl said that everything was fine, and the young man smelled very good. The guy said that he would not bother with his sister, so he went to brush his teeth and asked not to touch him. Buddy asked how long his sister was going to hang on to him since he had already said everything. The sister was offended by her brother because the young man did not even want to give the girl time to warm up. The guy was embarrassed and asked not to say such misleading words, but the girl said that her brother had been so cold to her lately. The sister prepared breakfast for her brother with love. The girl said that she was sure that these were amazing scrambled eggs. Buddy decided to ask his sister something, since they often confessed to her at school. The girl got excited about this topic. She said that yes, there is such a thing. The young man immediately asked how she usually rejected them, what to do if a person does not give up even after refusal. The sister replied that in these cases she would say that she already has a boyfriend, and if they didn't believe them, then she would show them a photo of her brother. The girl said that they needed to hurry up because they were late for school, and the relative added that her brother would not forget to wash the dishes. Buddy realized that this was the only way. Meanwhile, Amelie was already waiting for her lover, and then the vice president appeared from the door. He noticed the girl and was surprised that she really came. The young man carefully decided to run away from the annoying girl. The guy thought that this was the end. Because the girl was also in such clothes, she was planning to forcefully settle the matter with the rejected confession. But the girl caught up with the guy and stopped him by jumping on top. Amelie grabbed Buddy by the tie, and she pinned the vice president's head with her feet. The young man was thinking about what kind of romantic comedy his life would turn into. Meanwhile, in the Japanese martial art archery building, Buddy asked Amelie if this was not a performance of the Kyoto Association. Why did she drag him there at all? But the girl replied that she spent a lot of effort asking the young man to leave and take him on a date. The lady with pink hair said that the vice president doesn't know how to say thank you at all. But Buddy was perplexed about what other date, and clarified that he doesn't have dates in the morning. Suddenly, a handsome blonde man appeared in front of Amelie and Buddy, and waved his hand to the girl. The lady with pink hair whispered offendedly that it was him again. But the young man did not understand who he was. But then the girl came up with a plan. She turned sharply to Buddy and called him dear. Amelie said that it was good that the young man saw her off. It was so hot outside, she asked him to wait for her backstage. The young man noticed that the girl changed so suddenly, which made the vice president feel uneasy, and also began to address him strangely. Amelie whispered to the guy that if he didn't play along, the Kyoto club would take Buddy hostage and use him as a target for training. The lady with pink hair said that she would go get ready, and let the dear one watch her purse. The vice president decided to agree to play along. He wished the girl to perform well, and he would wait for Amelie backstage with her purse. The blonde, watching this scene, decided that the girl with pink hair was interesting. He apologized to his acquaintances and said that he had to leave them. The blonde man approached Buddy and immediately clarified that he must be the vice chairman from the Polytechnic. The blonde introduced himself as Howard, the head of the Kyoto club. The guy added that he had already heard about the vice president from Amelie, but did not think that they would run into each other here. Buddy only modestly greeted his new acquaintance. He was alarmed by this excessive friendliness. Howard added that he saw Buddy escorting Amelie. She probably brought the young man a lot of trouble, but since the head of the Kyoto circle invited the girl, he would escort her back after the meeting so as not to overwork the vice president. Buddy was annoyed that the blonde man manipulated him so much. He guessed that Amelie avoided the blonde man for the same reason. Howard said that if the young man was not interested in watching the performance, then let him come back, and he would explain everything to her for the vice president. But the guy told the blonde that he misunderstood. Buddy received an invitation from the student union, and as for who would accompany Amelie, it had nothing to do with him. The vice president turned around and added that, accordingly, so did the same for him. So Buddy turned around and walked away. But the blonde was angry. He was interested in this, but he had nothing to worry about. Meanwhile, a lady with pink hair was watching this conversation with a smile. She was quick to respond to Buddy. In the Kyoto hall, the girl began to show herself in archery, and the young man simply sat on the bench and watched her. The guy was looking forward to the end of this performance. But suddenly the young man dropped the bag with the girl's textbooks. All the books fell out of it. Out of the corner of his eye, Buddy noticed the titles of these books. They were all devoted to methods of courting guys. The young man was horrified that Amelie was reading such things. While the vice president was packing things into the girl's bag, he heard some suspicious conversations behind the partition. Someone said about Amelie that she takes advantage of the fact that she has a beautiful face and puts on airs, believing that she is always right. But then the blonde's voice was heard. He asked to leave it. Everyone already thinks that he was mistaken and okay. But the girl told him how he could leave it like that. He needed to teach this self-confident girl a lesson. Let him restrain himself. The other girls also agreed with her and said that this was nothing. The head of Howard only received a slap in the face in vain. But the blonde said that he didn't want the girls to look for problems on their own because of him. But the ladies stood their ground. They said that they needed to make her understand that she could not behave so impudently with the main Howard. But then Amelie noticed Buddy watching and asked him what he was doing here. The young man asked that if he said that he was eavesdropping on gossip, the girl would believe him. But the lady with pink hair found it suspicious that the guy was spying on the girls. But Buddy assured the girl that he had already seen enough of the girls today and had worn out his eyes. Amelie said that's great, then she will only look at her. With these words, the lady with pink hair pushed the vice president onto the bench. The girl sat down next to her and said that, given the fact that someone behaved quietly today and played along with her, Amelie decided to reward Buddy with helping the beautiful girl put on her socks, and once he put them on, they could go home. The guy sighed tensely when the girl put her foot on his knee, but the lady with pink hair immediately got angry and angrily said that her feet were clean, and besides, the vice president didn't even ask why he was being awarded. The young man cleared his throat and said that Amelie most likely misunderstood everything, and he didn't like that at all. But the lady with pink hair pointed her bow at her lover and asked again if he liked it. This time the guy answered positively. The drooping young man took the socks handed to him and began to put them on Amelie's feet. The young man put the girl's white socks on both feet, and she, smiling slyly, watched the process. Having finished with the matter, Buddy sighed and said that it was a great honor for him to put socks on a beautiful girl, and the lady with pink ponytails noted with a smile that it was good that the young man understood this. Amelie said that today she really wanted to thank the vice president for seeing her off. With these words, the girl put her head on the guy's shoulder, and Buddy asked if she knew Howard well. This question surprised the lady with pink hair, and looked questioningly at the guy. The girl enthusiastically asked if the guy was jealous of him. Amelie said that yesterday Howard, a member of the Kyoto Club from another school with whom she had never really interacted, came up to her and asked why it was so late and she was still here. But yesterday, when the performance was announced, the young man began to pester her. Howard pressed the girl against the wall and asked her if Amelie really stayed to wait for him. For this, the lady with pink hair slapped the blonde. She doesn't know what the blonde said to others, but today at the performance many were unhappy with her presence. Amelie wondered what was happening. Everyone was now discussing everything behind their backs. Buddy was about to say something to the girl, but she had already fallen asleep on his shoulder. The young man decided that Amelie pretended to be asleep and took her by the face. The lady with pink hair thought he was going to kiss her, but the vice president simply laid her head on the bag, and the guy himself decided to leave. But at the same moment Amelie called the young man. He knew that the girl was not sleeping, but she pressed Buddy against the wall with her foot. The lady with pink hair explained to the guy that he knew absolutely nothing about girls' hearts. If he noticed that the girl was sleeping sweetly, shouldn't he gently pick her up and carry her home? The vice president clarified that this was again some kind of story from a women's magazine. Amelie realized that the young man had seen her magazines. The girl called him a fool and said that she would go home to change clothes, and told the guy to go back to school alone. Buddy grinned as the pink-haired lady walked away. On the way back, the vice president thought that even though Howard had deceived those three girls, Buddy himself was ashamed of him. The young man understood that he had to prevent what these three were planning to do to Amelie, but for some reason he was haunted by the feeling that something was wrong. The guy drove away doubts from himself, but when they met, the fair-haired one behaved in such a way that the young man would leave early, and then he would give free rein to these girls. Buddy's suspicions turned out to be correct. The three girls met Amelie and asked, since they had met, if she knew what was going on. The lady with pink hair asked the strangers what they were up to, because she didn't even know who they were. At that moment, the short-haired blonde hit Amelie in the face. The girl explained that this was a slap in the face for the head of Howard. Amelie realized who they were and said that garbage likes to gather in a pile. This infuriated the stranger, who grabbed the girl by the collar and shouted to her who else was trash. But the lady with pink hair calmly replied that, of course, they and Howard were trash. The stranger ordered Amelie to close her mouth and raised her hand to give her a second slap. At that moment Buddy stopped her. He grabbed the enemy's hand. The young man said that they liked to be controlled. The blonde said that she was connected with the elder Howard by love, and the young man should not care who he was. And with this phrase she slapped the vice president in the face too. This action on the part of the stranger embittered the young man. The blonde asked the guy why he was staring so much. Suddenly Amelie ran up to the vice president. The girl told the young man that he had nothing to do with it, and he should leave. But Buddy suddenly grabs the lady with pink hair and tells her that they will leave together. The girl simply beamed with delight, and then began to cry. Then the daring blonde intervened. She asked them what the payback was, and added that Amelie and Buddy should not think that they could just leave. The young man sighed and told Howard to come out already, because everything was bad, but if the guy found him, then everything would be much worse. After these words, the blonde man appeared. He clarified that it was the vice president who said this, and added that he didn't start everything. Howard was just passing by. But at the same moment the fair-haired man received a powerful blow to the face from a fist. Buddy swung so hard and put so much force into the blow that the blonde flew away from him. The guy said that he returned the slap and explained that next time he should think before doing something, otherwise everyone will know about his actions. Howard tried to pretend that he didn't understand what kind of actions he was talking about, but the vice president immediately told him that he had a recording from the cameras of the sports complex in which he was pestering Amelie, so he suggested that he think about it. The blonde said that he understood everything and that this would not happen again, and bowed his head as an apology. His supporting girls demanded an explanation from the elder. The blonde was called a loser who didn't deserve true love, and meanwhile Amelie and Buddy left the place. A little later, the young man and the girl stopped to rest by the sea. Amelie handed a cool can of cola to her lover. The vice president asked what it was. The lady with pink hair explained that it was ice cola and offered to put it on his face, because it would be difficult to explain later if someone saw him with a bruise on his face. The girl asked how Buddy knew what those girls and Howard were up to. The young man explained that the blonde initially turned all of them against Amelie, making a pitiful appearance, and then he wanted to pretend to be a hero who saved the beauty, a typical story from books. The lady with pink hair commented on the vice president's intelligence. The girl asked the guy if this meant that Buddy decided to take a different scenario in order to save the beauty. The young man asked if he really saved the beauty. Amelie clarified what the guy meant. But then the girl came up with something. Since Buddy is now her hero, he will be responsible for Amelie. He will be the hero. Followed by the lady with pink hair. Some time later, the young man received a message from Amelie. The girl scolded the young man for running away after lunch. The vice president realized that this situation was awkward. If he had not escaped, he would have died on the spot. At that moment, his sister approached the guy from behind. She grabbed her brother's hand, in which he was holding the phone, and she asked who he was communicating with. The young man abruptly hid his phone and said that it was a message with an advertisement from the store. The sister noted that her brother's tone was doubtful. There was a pause, broken only by the sound of the notification on the phone. The sister asked the relative why he was nervous, whether he had any problems. The guy denied, but the girl continued to suspect the young man. As a result, the relative won and took Buddy's phone away, and she threw the young man to the floor. She told his brother to be silent. She wanted to check something. The sister was angry that the password was not her birthday. She decided to teach her relative a lesson. The girl ran away from the young man and said that it was indeed an advertisement from an online store. The relative decided that for now she would keep her brother's phone number and stuck it in the towel she was wearing. But the mobile phone simply fell through the towel and flew to the floor. The brother and sister looked at the gadget that had fallen to the floor in shock. The young man suggested that Lucy do something else that she wanted. At the phrase about what she wants, the sister turned sharply. And now the brother was already lying on the knees of a relative. There was some kind of incomprehensible anxiety in his heart. The young man asked if they were really brother and sister, and where she got such a strange hobby. Lucy said that Buddy himself suggested that she do whatever she wanted. The girl added that when she helps clean other people's ears, she experiences a lot of emotions. The sister took the strange devices and said that how could such a relaxing hobby be strange, as her brother said. Then the sister put away the utensils and blew lightly into her brother's ear, making him blush. The young man opened his eyes and looked at Lucy. His sister's towel began to spread apart. Buddy became embarrassed and abruptly stood up from his sister's lap. The girl asked her relative what was wrong again. The guy lay down on his sister's lap again and said that he wanted to turn his back on her because he was going to send a message to some bad girl, and if his evil sister saw him, she would be even more angry. But Lucy pulled her brother's cheeks and added that since she was sitting on the phone, she should be sitting there. Why was he laughing at her? After seeing many unread messages, the guy realized that the situation on his campus was scary. The young man, with annoyance in his voice, asked Lucy not to go to school tomorrow, but his sister said that tomorrow was Saturday. The girl asked her relative how he could forget that tomorrow was Saturday. The relative reminded her that tomorrow her brother would go to watch her performance. The young man clarified that this was a city dance competition for teenagers, and asked Lucy not to worry, because he would definitely go. The brother began to make excuses that although he forgot that tomorrow was Saturday, he still felt that there would be some important business, so he was looking for an excuse not to go to campus. The sister tensely asked whether the young man would definitely go, and the brother replied that he would definitely go. Lucy said that was enough for today, and went to bed, said that she would see her tomorrow at the theater, and the young man, meanwhile, decided to answer the chairman's message. Buddy suggested that the chairman take a good break from work and see him on Monday, but Tiffany decided to thank the young man and come to his house tomorrow morning. The guy was shocked by the last message. The vice chairman thought that if Lucy saw that the chairman would come to him in the morning, then his brother would not live. The young man sent his sister to rehearsal in advance so that the white-haired girl would not have time to catch her at home. Buddy rushed to the library early to avoid danger and saved himself from the terrible Tiffany. The vice president was impressed with his abilities as a strategist. Suddenly someone offered him coffee. The young man thanked him. After drinking a little, the guy continued to beam with happiness, lost in his thoughts. But suddenly the young man felt a soft, familiar feeling at his shoulder. Then Tiffany appeared in front of him and wished the deputy good morning. Buddy asked the chairman how she knew that the young man was hiding in the library. The white-haired girl took out some pastries from the bag and began thoughtfully. Tiffany asked the vice president if he knew why the hare fell into a trap so easily. The young man was tense by the girl's pressure. He asked why. The girl replied that it was all because the hare was a coward. The white-haired woman added that as soon as the hunter makes the slightest sound, the hare will immediately run in fear in the other direction. With these words, the president stood up from her chair and leaned towards her deputy. Tiffany continued that at the same time, a smart hunter only needs to know the habits of a hare in order to set a trap, and then the hare will fall into it of his own free will. The white-haired girl came close to the young man. Then the girl pulled away and called the guy a bunny. The young man wondered in his mind why he was a bunny. Then the deputy asked the chairman why she was so smart, but still hadn't found a boyfriend. The president began thoughtfully that if she falls in love, then no one can escape her. The young man did not understand where this white fox learned such things, why she smiles when she says all this to the guy. The vice president was a little confused and asked Tiffany why she was looking for him. The white-haired girl answered Buddy that she wanted to see him, but the young man waited for the answer to continue. The chairman added that she would still go on a blind date. The guy immediately replied that he was a little unwell today, so he said goodbye to Tiffany and got up from the table. But the white fox caught the young man's leg with her heel. The vice president lost his balance and fell. The white-haired girl grabbed the guy's hand and asked if the deputy really wanted to grab her hand. The girl added that Buddy really wanted her to scream. The guy mentally said that now someone else would scream. The chairwoman grabbed the guy's leg with both legs and held his hand with her hand. The white fox picked up the young man's trouser leg with her toes and lifted it up. The girl asked if her dear deputy wanted this. Tiffany was like a hunter who caught Buddy the hare by the ears. The vice president accepted his fate, apologized and said he was better. The girl moved more comfortably in her chair. The chairwoman explained that the guy needs to meet with one person and just don't be nervous. The young man reminded Tiffany that she at least knew how many guys at school wanted to skin him when the girl used him as an excuse. Therefore, the vice president was not going to face certain death. But the white fox said that she would offer something to anyone who would go to meet her today. And then Tiffany took out something, which made the young man's eyes sparkle. The president took out a disc with a valuable game for her deputy. The vice president asked where the girl got this game from, since the game should officially be released only in 3 months. The white-haired girl was also pleased. She knew that the guy loved this game. The chairwoman recalled her question, and now the guy immediately agrees to her proposal. The vice president asked who this terrible person was and asked him to tell him what he should prepare for. Tiffany said that the man's family returned from abroad, is on the list of the world's top 500 entrepreneurs, and runs a joint business with her family. The girl continued that at the last banquet their parents drank too much, and said that they were already at the age to get to know each other better. The white fox turned to Buddy and added that this had happened before, but now she definitely had to refuse. The young man asked why not take a closer look at the young man, because it was beneficial for the deputy that if the white-haired woman got a boyfriend, she would stop mocking him all day long. But the girl immediately replied that this would not happen and grabbed the guy by the elbow. Tiffany added that the vice president was so interesting and she had not played enough with him yet. But these words confused Buddy, so he said that the chairman always says such strange things. The chairwoman was hanging on the young man, when suddenly someone called out to her. The white fox looked up in the direction of the voice to look at the person who had called out to her, but at the same time she did not let go of the young man from her embrace. Nancy appeared in front of them. The girl said that she did not expect to meet them here. The vice president pulled Tiffany away from him and asked the queen of the school what she was doing here. The black-haired girl briefly replied that, fortunately, she was passing by. But then she remembered that she had forgotten to give the discount coupons and reminded her not to forget to exchange them. Nancy said goodbye, that she would not distract the two from their date, and left. The young man suddenly remembered that the queen of the school said that the day after tomorrow at the same time she would be waiting for an answer from the guy. And then Lucy reminded me of the competition that my brother was supposed to come to this evening. The guy figured that he needed to remember to exchange the coupon for coffee. He didn't think that such a person, hiding in the shadows, would have such a good relationship with everyone's desired beauty. The deputy grabbed Tiffany's hand and ran forward, saying that they were now going on a blind date. Meanwhile, the young man was already waiting for the chairman in the restaurant. But noticing a stranger next to the girl, the young man asked Tiffany who he was, but the white-haired girl could not answer. Because of her fast running, her breathing was shortened, and she also forgot the essence of the matter. But the white fox gathered her thoughts and introduced the deputy of the student union. They accidentally met on the street and decided to eat at Charles's expense, if he doesn't mind. But in his heart Charles was still against it. But his face sparkled with the most sincere smile. The young man said that Tiffany's friends were also his friends and invited them to sit down. The rich man mentally decided that against the background of this impudent man who dared to hold Tiffany's hand, he would look perfect. The white-haired girl thought that the deputy was really a fool. It's obvious that he went with her to use the chairman as a shield. And now he doesn't mind talking with his rival. The girl called Buddy. The guy turned to the president. The white fox told the deputy that he would stop chatting. It would be better to let him eat, and began to feed the young man herself. Tiffany added that they had other things to do after lunch. Charles was mentally indignant at the proximity of this boy and the chairman, although he knows that this is his date. The rich man mentally summed up that this young man was unworthy of her. The guy with glasses turned to Buddy, saying that he didn't know him very well yet, and invited the vice president to have a drink and chat a little, because this restaurant had very tasty dessert wine. The deputy was confused by such a proposal and explained that he didn't really know how to drink, but Charles insisted that the young man try. Tiffany wondered what if she drank it and pretended to be drunk. The white-haired girl imagined how she, after drinking wine, fell into the vice president's lap. The girl wanted to annoy the hated Charles. The white fox thought this was a great idea because good wine should not be missed and agreed. The deputy asked whether they would really drink, but the president immediately replied that yes. Because she had not seen him drunk, the guy agreed, but only for a little, and this was all only to Charles's advantage. And so the three of them knocked glasses of red wine. Tiffany decided that she would drink some wine and immediately pretend to be drunk. But Buddy was already drunk and fell head first on the table. Charles apologized for offering the deputy a drink and decided to go pay the bill, and immediately suggested that Tiffany send Buddy home and retire to another place. But the white-haired woman told the rich man not to say that, because she had not been in the mood to communicate with him before, and the girl herself lifted the relaxed vice president and put his head on her shoulder. Charles replied curtly that he would then simply pay the bill. But then Buddy told the girl that she smelled delicious. Tiffany became embarrassed and blushed, telling the deputy not to talk nonsense. The young man asked if the girl could get up. Buddy said that he wouldn't be able to get up. The white fox somehow lifted the vice president. Then Charles's wallet fell out of his pocket. At that moment, the rich man was just looking for his wallet, which he could not find. A young man with glasses picked up the wallet that had fallen from Buddy's pocket, and said that he kept wondering why he couldn't find it. But it turns out the wallet was secretly stolen. Charles, keeping that same peaceful face, said that theft is a crime, and they must obey the laws. At this moment, the deputy indistinctly asked about the stolen wallet. The young man said for now to look for the rich man's wallet, and he himself would pay. Finally, Charles's face changed to a gloomy one. He told the guy that this was not what he needed, and since Buddy was making a fool of himself, then he would call the police. Let them sort it out. But Tiffany intervened. She threatened the young man with glasses. If he did not stop the performance, the girl would commit a real crime. The rich man said that the wallet fell out of Buddy's pocket, and the president should have seen. And Charles also added that guys of this kind are not suitable for a girl, and that the white-haired woman should not protect him. But with these words, the white fox made her move, She poured wine into the face of the young man with glasses. Tiffany asked the rich man if he had come to his senses and if the performance was over. The girl added a question about who he thinks he is, and she said that she didn't care about his dirty tricks and words towards her family as long as he didn't interfere in Tiffany's life. The president added that if Charles ruins Buddy's future, she won't stand for it. The girl said that it was good that she saw through the rich man earlier. Otherwise tomorrow there would be one more concrete pillar under the bridge. Charles replied that he understood Tiffany. The president put the glass of wine she had emptied on the rich man and hugged the vice president. The girl regretted that it was all because of her. Tiffany lifted Buddy and led him to the exit. Some time later the young man woke up from his sleep after being drunk. The guy asked the white-haired girl what time it was. The chairman said that it was already 4 o'clock. Buddy jumped up from his knees screaming that he was late for his sister's performance. But Tiffany said she deceived the guy. The girl reproached the deputy for his gullibility, that he believes everything he is told, so it is not surprising that Charles almost set him up. The vice president was surprised. The chairman explained that no one had smiled so much when talking to Charles before. The girl did not think that she would figure out Buddy so quickly. But now everything is fine. The girl added that the guy should under no circumstances believe those who wear masks and smile, including her. The deputy looked away in embarrassment. The young man thanked the girl for saving him. The white fox leaned forward a little. The chairwoman said that the guy should give himself up as gratitude. But Buddy jumped off the girl's lap and ran, as he could be late for his sister's performance. Tiffany suggested taking the subway. The young man said that he only had 1 ticket to the theater. The president took out 2 tickets and said that now the guy has 2 VIP tickets. Buddy asked where the girl got them from, but she replied that it was for their next purpose, and her father gave her the tickets. The chairman said that she knew that Buddy's sister was doing ballet. She thought that the young man would be interested in it, and it so happened that she would perform there. But the guy did not believe in the coincidence. The white-haired woman asked if they were going. The vice president replied that they would go, but asked why the girl was holding him by the waist. The president replied that it was because the guy was drunk. The young man said displeasedly that he had already sobered up, but Tiffany grinned that that's what all drunk people say. Some time later the girl asked to wait. She said that her feet were tired and took off her high heels. The white fox felt relieved after taking off her sandals. The young man looked at her legs. Tiffany asked where the guy was looking, and whether the deputy really had secret hobbies. The chairman hoped that she would find out about the secret hobbies of the deputy. But the girl did not expect that Buddy would worry about her bare feet. The young man took off his shoes and gave them to Tiffany. The white-haired woman told the deputy not to be so nervous, because it was his sister on stage, not himself. The white fox tried to distract and calm the vice president. Suddenly the guy removed the girl's hand from his face and told her to wait. Buddy called loudly to his sister Lucy when she appeared on stage. But then the deputy noticed that something was wrong with the relative's dress. The ribbon on Lucy's dress began to come apart, exposing part of the girl's body. Panic began among the ballerina girls on stage. Nobody understood what happened or what was going on, and after the performance, the winner was announced. Lucy sat in the dressing room, depressed because of her unsuccessful performance. Meanwhile, the winner was being awarded on stage. Lucy looked at her reward without the slightest joy on her face. But then her brother appeared and asked Lucy if she was okay, why she was sitting alone. Lucy was glad to see her brother, and threw herself on his neck. The girl began to cry because all her efforts were in vain. Tiffany praised Lucy, said that the girl was on top. The questions are only about the costume. If her sister took first place, then everyone would be happy. But now the deputy is worried. Buddy's sister rudely asked the white-haired fox what she forgot here, and the girl replied that she had come to watch her perform. Lucy asked not to call her sister, but Tiffany said that since the girl was the deputy's sister, then her sister too. The argument did not stop, and the young man regretted that he could not immediately foresee their meeting. Buddy remembered their first meeting. Lucy took her brother's hand and said that they were returning home. The girl added that there was one bad and cunning lady here, ready to devour Buddy without a trace. But the white-haired one asked her sister to cool down, and said that she treated Buddy very well. The girls grabbed the young man from both sides. The white-haired one asked the deputy what he would say to this, and Lucy asked where it would be even better. The guy said that the chairman was very kind to him. After all, they all live on the same planet. The young man suggested that they live in peace and without quarrels. But all this time Lucy was looking at Tiffany's hand squeezing her brother's palm, so her sister pushed them apart, saying that they shouldn't be so close. The girl added that only she can do it alone. Suddenly a blonde girl came into the room and told Lucy that's where she was. The girl ran up to Buddy's sister and said that it was so great that they were in 4th place. Next year they would try harder. But Lucy resisted, demanded to let her in, and asked what was good about being in 4th place. Then the stranger turned to Buddy and asked if he was Lucy's older brother. The blonde added that Lucy talked to Buddy all day long and didn't even pay attention to her. Then the stranger turned to Tiffany. The blonde noted that the chairman was very beautiful and asked if she was Buddy's girlfriend. The stranger added that if this was the case, then she could borrow Lucy. But Buddy's sister asked the girl not to talk nonsense and suggested that she go to the locker room to change clothes. The white fox told the vice president that the girl was in charge of the props. The white-haired woman asked the deputy if he knew why his sister failed. Lucy announced that she would go change clothes. The sister added that her brother should wait, and she left. The young man realized that, nevertheless, the chairman's guesses sounded reasonable. The vice president asked Tiffany if she thought that Sarah had ruined Lucy's costume, what the motive was. The white-haired girl suggested that, being a member of their team, Sarah was not annoyed by the loss. On the contrary, she was very happy. How could they suspect something was wrong? And Buddy, as the older brother, would have to find out the motive himself. Tiffany added that she might have to ask her personal questions. The guy didn't understand how anyone could think about this. Sarah asked her brother if he was upset by Lucy's performance. The young man replied that yes, because his sister worked tirelessly for 6 months, and in the end took 4th place. The vice president asked if Sarah had checked her sister's suit thoroughly. The blonde suddenly became concerned. She replied that all the costumes had been thoroughly checked, so she didn't know how it happened. The girl suggested that perhaps the bright light on the stage was so hot that the threads began to melt. Buddy found Sarah's response very suspicious that something was wrong. Then the deputy's phone rang. Amelie asked Buddy if he died there, why he didn't respond to her messages, and where he was now. The vice president replied that he was at the small theater. But the girl immediately asked the question whether he was alone or went there with another girl on a date. The young man thought about whether it would be possible to spend it. The deputy responded that it was good that there were security cameras behind the scenes and added that they had footage of the elementary school student. Amelie did not understand what the young man was saying and asked him if he was in his right mind. The guy replied to wait for him, he would be there soon. Buddy added that they should call the police if they have to, but with these words Sarah grabbed the guy's jacket. The blonde said that she would confess. Meanwhile, the lady with pink hair was pondering the strange set of phrases spoken by Buddy. The girl did not understand why the police were there. She assumed that this was a code word, and Buddy might have been kidnapped. Amelie abruptly got out of the bath. The girl said that it was finally her turn to save the beauty, but the lady with pink hair suggested that if she rescues alone, it might end badly, and she will also be caught hostage. The blonde said that Lucy gave her an oath that she would quit dancing if she took the prize. That's why Sarah ruined her tutu so that his sister could continue dancing. The blonde apologized and said she just wanted Lucy to dance. Sarah called herself selfish and said she would do anything to calm Buddy's anger. It was difficult for the vice president to believe this. He did not understand anything at all. The blonde asked the guy if he wanted Lucy to believe in her dream and continue dancing. Sarah added that she adores her sister Buddy and her determination, so she is ready to do anything to support her, and then asked if the young man knew why she decided to quit dancing. Buddy didn't know, but the blonde replied that Lucy wanted to quit dancing because of him. The young man was for Lucy a brother who makes every effort. Buddy was the brother who always tried hard. No matter what kind of brother he is, Lucy always follows him. The blonde added that in order to keep up with her brother and take more care of him, Lucy decided to quit dancing, because her heart completely belongs to her brother. Even when Sister Buddy rejected Sarah, she showed her a photo of the young man as the reason for the refusal. The deputy realized that the blonde was the person whom Lucy had rejected. Sarah added that her brother knows that Lucy has a love and talent for dancing, and if she quits, will the young man be able to remain calm? A little later, the brother and sister were returning home. Buddy was carrying Lucy on his back. He asked if the girl was tired. If she wanted, she could take a nap. But the sister replied that if she fell asleep, she would not be able to hold the umbrella, and her brother would get wet. The vice president asked Lucy if she was quitting dancing, but the girl said that she had not said anything like that. The young man explained that he heard it from Sarah. Lucy said that until she surpasses that girl and becomes her brother's pride, she will not give up. The young man thought about the words about that girl. Time never changes anything, it only silently observes from the side. 2 years have passed and Buddy is no longer worried about her leaving. However, those emotions will forever remain in his memory. For this reason, the young man does not want any more confessions. My sister just mentioned that bad girl and thought that her brother started thinking about her again. The young man replied that this could not be true, and he was thinking about what they would have for dinner. But Lucy said that the more her brother talked, the more she began to doubt. The guy noticed that choosing dances to surpass her was too childish, and called Lucy a child. But my sister tried to prove that it was not because of that girl. Lucy said that the young man didn't remember how he spoke about his life's work. The deputy asked again, but then remembered how he mentored his sister when they were little. There is always something to which you need to devote your whole life. To achieve your goal, you need to start with what you are doing right now and put all your effort into it. Little Lucy took the phone from him so that he could play with her. But then they called my sister to get ready for a dance lesson. The brother asked his sister if she had heard about her life's work, and added that dancing should become her life's work. In fact, the young man wanted to get rid of his little sister. Having remembered a couple of adult phrases, the guy forced her to go to the dance. But Buddy could not even imagine that these words would become a life motto for the girl, and she would begin to dance diligently. The vice president completely forgot how it all began. Lucy asked her brother if he had really forgotten about his instructions. The girl added that her brother did not care about his sister at all. The guy said that, of course, he had not forgotten. These were his favorite words from the first episode of the superhero series. Buddy was the same person who inspired Lucy to take dance classes, which she now attends with joy. Suddenly, the brother and sister heard some noise behind them. A car was flying straight at them at high speed. The relatives thought about what to do in this situation. But then Buddy manages to dodge the car and shouts to Lucy to be careful. The girl asked her brother if he was okay. Already at home, the girl said that she had an umbrella, and Buddy turned straight to meet the spray. His sister reproached the young man for trying to save everyone from unnecessary trouble every time. Lucy added that it's the same with dancing. Every time, tired after his classes, her brother still goes to meet her. The girl said that she wants to take care of her brother with all her heart, but instead she gives him a lot of trouble, because, as Sarah said, Lucy wants to quit dancing. But Buddy said that when he became her brother, he immediately knew he had to take care of Lucy. The young man told his sister that she could not quit dancing. Today she took 4th place, but she must definitely surpass that girl. Lucy was indignant that her brother spent the whole day with that fox, and now he was using tricks. But Buddy reminded her that didn't her sister say that it was her life's work to surpass her? Lucy said that her brother was all wet and offered to help him dry. The deputy told his sister not to bother herself, he would dry himself. But the girl told her brother not to say anything stupid and threw the young man onto the bed. Lucy decided to tickle Buddy, and he tried to resist. Suddenly the guy remembered Nancy when he saw the coffee coupons that had fallen out of his pocket. The young man hurried as fast as he could to the cafe. There the black-haired woman was already waiting for him, who immediately upon meeting asked if the problem had been solved. The guy asked the eldest how she knew that he would be late. The queen of the school showed the phone, where there were messages from Amelie that Buddy was most likely kidnapped. The girl asked the older one why she didn't answer. The black-haired woman explained that Amelie asked whether she should call the police. But Nancy thought that the guy was just busy, so she reassured the girl and said that she would figure it out herself. The young man realized that excessive care leads to excessive worry. The guy understood that if he didn't solve the problems, then there would be even more of them in the future. Then everything would be the same as then. Buddy also remembered a moment from the past when the girl left. The young man began. He asked that Nancy offered to pretend to be a couple. The queen of the school replied that she did, and asked if the young man had made his decision. The next day, Amelie was waiting for her lover at the door. Then Buddy came out, and the guy immediately noticed a lady with pink hair. The young man asked what time she got up and why she came so early, but the girl said that she did not quite understand what he was talking about, and asked if they had not met by chance. Amelie then grabbed the vice president's hand and said that she had something to ask. The girl asked what they were doing with Nancy, when the guy was found and why he didn't answer the phone. The young man thought about what to answer the girl. He could not tell the lady with pink hair that he and the queen of the school were discussing some matters. Buddy asked what Amelie wanted, but she went behind her bag to get something and explained that she had guessed everything last night. The girl said that the young man is so passive, so this probably fits his hobbies, so she prepared a bandage for him. The lady with pink hair suggested trying it now, but Buddy asked where she learned all these techniques. Amelie showed a book for adults, and said that she learned most of it from here, and guessed the rest herself. Hearing all this, the young man immediately disappeared. The girls started to chase the guy screaming. She asked where he was running and didn't Buddy want to try. At that moment, Nancy noticed them from the window. The deputy infuriated the girl with his displeasure, but he said that he was on duty today, and he needed to go. A lady with pink hair was chasing a young man. The guy managed to hide in the classroom. Echoes of the girl were heard from the corridor that the young man would no longer receive fruit juice. But then the white fox called Buddy and asked how the young man spent his weekend. The young man replied that thanks to the chairman he had a great weekend. In his thoughts he thought that because of the white-haired woman he would eat fried celery all week. The president said that since the guy was in a good mood, she asked him to help solve a problem at the tennis club and promised to treat him to coffee for it. But there was no answer from the young man. The white fox decided that perhaps the phone was dead. Tiffany asked Vanessa to check if Buddy is in class or not. Vanessa was the head of the student union self-government department, and she agreed to the chairman's request. The young man thought that on campus he was in danger from all sides, and so it all started again. Someone appeared and blocked the guy's hand from continuing to wash the board. But then the eldest appeared and asked Buddy if he had run away from Amelie in the morning. Nancy said that since they started working together last night, why don't they take advantage of their fake relationship and correct this misunderstanding? The young man agreed with his fake girlfriend's proposal. The guy was embarrassed, and the queen of the school intended to do something. The black-haired girl extended her hand forward and stood on her toes. At that moment, the chairman came into the class and said that she had been waiting for him for so long. But the girl was shocked by what she saw and dropped the entire stack of sheets on the floor. At the same moment, Amelie ran into the classroom. On the way here, the girl came up with something new and wanted to share with the boy. The lady with pink hair was shocked by what she saw in the classroom. Nancy and Buddy stood and kissed. The girls watching were shocked. Tiffany and Amelie simply watched and could not move from the unexpected sight. In fact, the queen of the class saw chalk in the guy's hair. The elder asked the deputy to tilt his head a little to get a better look. But in the eyes of the girls who appeared in the class, it all looked like a romantic scene with a kiss. The lady with pink hair could not stand it and started to run away. The white fox was still standing and trying to understand what was happening. The white-haired girl apologized to the deputy and said that she would probably go. The young man noticed Tiffany running away. Nancy said that she just heard Tiffany and Amelie's voices. The black-haired girl asked if everything was okay. The guy said that it was probably even better. He still didn't know how to tell Amelie, and now he accidentally got rid of the burden that lay on his soul. The queen of the school suggested going to the literary club to discuss something. Buddy agreed to her proposal, and the deputy himself thought that if everything went well, the problems would be solved naturally. At the door to the office, a guy called the girl. The young man asked the deputy to leave because he wanted to personally discuss the issues of the literary club with Nancy. Buddy smoothly hinted to the eldest that he was leaving, but the queen of the school tried to hint the opposite to the guy. The young man did not understand why the girl's gaze changed. Finally, the vice president understood. He came forward in front of the girl and said that since we were talking about the club, the young man had nothing to hide. The guy got angry. He asked Badia who he thinks he is if he wants to use his position in the student union to dictate to them. Nancy explained that Buddy is the student union deputy. The black-haired woman added that he was also her boyfriend. This news hit the young man in the head. He understood who the girl was talking about when she said that there was a person she liked. With these words, the queen of the school entered the classroom. Her fake boyfriend followed her, and the unfamiliar young man remained defeated sitting in the doorway. The guy remained to experience grief, reading lines of poetry. Buddy asked the girl what the guy just wanted to say. In response, the eldest apologized for her willfulness and bowed to her fake boyfriend. The young man said that everything was in order, because this was the only way to solve the problem. Now he would spread the rumor, and their plan would move forward. And Buddy also asked if it was as difficult for him to refuse as Amelie was for him. Nancy replied that there was no and there was another one. Then the black-haired girl asked the guy if he had thought about what couples usually do. The queen of the school said that she thought that going to and from school together would not be enough to fool everyone, so she suggested joining a literary club so that they could spend more time together. But he asked if that was all, but the girls said there was something else. When the eldest was researching relationships yesterday, she came across a pink app in which lovers leave their mark and suggested the guy try it. The young man thought about the Bible. He wondered if they taught people how to date.